What's going on there, folks? Good evening. It is your Earthmaster here once again on the channel with an update video on this Thursday evening, January 6, 2022 is the date, about 6:38 p.m. California time. Earthquake activity continuing as we see on the live seismograph stations and also on the Earthquake 3D globe in the California area. Still seeing some swarming movement in the Northern California region. The latest quake, a 3.0, looks like it's right around the California and Nevada area. Also, while I'm here on the globe, check out this deep movement over here earlier in the day, well west of the Pacific Ring of Fire, but into the subduction zone way down there. 4.3 earthquake at 543 kilometers deep. Let's go ahead and check out that movement on the map here, on the USGS map. We'll go ahead and pull this up real quick. There we go. By the way, I've been pretty busy sending out decals. I sent over 100 of them out today. Those that got in the email for free decals from the channel here, look in your mailbox here in the coming days. That includes international mail for a manila envelope that says TEM on it, the Earthmaster, and of course your address. So look for those free decals. They're being sent out to at least the first 100 people, according to my email list from the not the most recent, but the first ones that sent me a request. Okay, moving on here into the East China Sea region. Had a 4.8, but this 4.3 well up north here, well west of Japan, showing some deeper movement. We're looking at that 4.3, 543 kilometers deep. Got the Japan Trench that sits over here. This region sees a lot of deep earthquake activity over time. And man, I tell you what, that's a really deep one. Still got to watch this area pretty closely. I keep saying that the more deep earthquake activity we see on this side of these plates, the highly likelihood of a much larger quake taking place here along the subduction zone. Let's work our way back over to Northern California where activity continues. This is not the all magnitudes, but the 2.5 and above. Pretty a little bit more active than what we've seen. Latest quake, a 3.0. That was the one we seen on the globe near the Deep Springs, California area. Of course, this area seen a 4.8. Yeah, was it yesterday or the day before? Let's go ahead and pull that up. There we go, 4.8. Of course, we had a pair of them. One in Nevada up north, around the Candelaria Hills area, northwest of Tonopah, and also one down here in the Deep Springs area. Both of them roughly around 9 kilometers below the surface. Very close when you speak of geologically speaking. This is very close activity. Let's go ahead and go to the all magnitudes, see what we got going on here in the Eureka Valley area. This is where the Deep Springs movement is taking place. 3.0 looks to be at least the largest quake so far today. Just a sure sign of impending pressure out here regionally as a whole along the west coast. Looking at this other movement throughout the day, some microquakes, but it is spreading out here, roughly about 3 to 5 miles or so within this valley, northern end of the valley. You got Chocolate Mountain up here. That sounds good. Eureka Valley Road. A whole lot of desert out here for sure. Fault systems not really showing up here on the map. There's a couple, I believe they're unnamed faults. Let's see if I can get them to pull up. Fish Lake Valley Fault. And I know there's another one down here. That must have been the same one. Kind of certain sections of it. And also the Deep Springs Fault over here. But there's definitely some other fault systems on there. We'll have to look that up in a little bit more detail a little bit later. Movement up around the Long Valley supervolcano continues to increase as well. Just outside of the Mammoth Lake, southward here. Around the airport and also in the mountains here. Looks like, what is that, Silver Divide? It's been a while. I went to Ridgecrest last year down here to check out some, see if I could find some fracture zones. I remember traveling this area, but I never got far deep into the mountains around this outside of Long Valley. I found myself inside the caldera. Pretty crazy area out there along the dirt roads and whatnot. I've seen some weird stuff going on out there, let me tell you. But anyway, movement picking up in that area as well. As the Ridgecrest region down here all showing some uptick in earthquake movement. no matter how you look at it, it's definitely on the uptick here along the west coast. Let's see here. Let's zoom up here to the Nevada area where we're still seeing that movement here. This area has seen that 4.8 as well. And a whole bunch of microquakes kicking up right along with it. North of Reno or south of Reno area, seeing a little swarm of movement here. A couple microquakes. And also the Pyramid Lake getting in on some action as well. One area where we haven't seen a lot of movement is the Lake Tahoe area. And up here around the Lake Almanor area, normally a lot of times we'll see increased swarming in these areas, but we could be looking at even though we're seeing continued pressure here along the west coast. I think these areas right here where we're seeing right now are just kind of the weaker spots, if you will, under pressure, creating those fault systems, showing those quakes and whatnot here in the western part of the North American plate. Let's see, Central Valley looks pretty quiet. We are still seeing some activity ramp up along the San Andreas Fault here, right around the Bay Area. Got one right smack dab there in San Francisco Zoo. 1.2 at 10.9 kilometers. It looks like it's just right off the San Andreas Fault. Really close, I would say. And some movement around the Calaveras Fault system southward into the San Andreas creeping section. Up here in the north, I kind of want to cover this as well because we are still seeing some earthquake activity. And we've seen it all day long popping up on the live seismographs here in the Petrolia area. But I tell you what, USGS being very picky on the info they're putting out here when it comes to the earthquake activity. I'm about tempted to write one of the geologists up and see what's going on. How come they're not reporting the earthquake activity that's obviously coming in to the local seismograph stations here? It's not. It's definitely not any interference or man-made stuff. This is definitely earthquake activity I've been watching for the past couple days, but they're not reporting it. I keep saying that, but man, they continue to not report it. The stuff that is being reported, a couple 2s and some 3s, the latest 3.2 earthquake well deep into the subduction zone of the Cascadia megathrust. Right here is where it all begins and subducts underneath the North American plate in this type of fashion down here. So that the depth there for the earthquake, 18.1 kilometers, obviously a subduction zone quake. And right there at the locked area where it all gets stuck and where one day it will all release. 3.2 at 18.1 kilometers, and also some movement here around the Mendocino Triple Point Junction. Up north, look at this. Really quiet. I'm talking whisper type quiet up here in the Pacific Northwest. Nothing going on. At least, again, according to the USGS. We'll check out this. Let's go ahead and check out the trimmer real quick here along the Cascadia. This always gives us a good indication of what's going on, and there's not a whole lot going on at the Cascadia trimmer department either. Up and down the board, it's what, 647, so this has definitely been updated, but nothing coming in today along the trimmer department. Let's see, some movement out through the Utah areas, kind of ramping up here. You look at it, man, there's a lot here on the board. There's definitely a lot of seismic increase in pressure here, specifically within this region of the North American plate. And activity kind of ramping up too as well, south of the Garlock fault structure. Not for sure if these guys are trying to activate a fault system here. 1.3 query blast right smack dab on the Garlock fault. Yeah, that's a good way to get things rocking and rolling in Southern California. Movement up and down the San Jacinto fault area and also the San Andreas fault. A little swarm of movement around Desert Hot Springs, the southern branch of the San Andreas fault right there. Also some activity in the Baja California region. The Pecos, Texas area getting in on quite a bit of activity as well. A couple 2s kicking up there southeast of the Guadalupe Peak. And one little earthquake up here in the Kansas area, 2.1. East Coast and areas of the New Madrid zone look pretty quiet. Of course, we had that earthquake down here in the Nicaragua area with a 6.1 into the Middle America Trench area, just south of the El Salvador, Guatemala area. 21.6 kilometers for that earthquake. A little bit of movement following that larger quake up north and deeper into the Middle America Trench at 93.8 kilometers for a 4.6. Trench right here is pretty dangerous in producing some mega quakes, very large quakes, I should say. Puerto Rico area getting in a little bit of activity as well, and the Virgin Islands 3.7 at 7 kilometers. Not a whole lot of movement around the Puerto Rico Trench or the St. John's area southward. South America looking pretty quiet. These earthquakes, well, look at that. As soon as I speak, right? One right smack dab on the Pruchilli Trench here, just to the west of it, right before the subduction zone. 10-kilometer depth for that earthquake. And looking up here at some older movement, way earlier today and late last night, had some deeper activity, 184 kilometers for this one. So possibly watching for some larger movement at the subduction zones there. Subduction zone in the South America region. This earthquake from earlier this morning, 5.3 in the South Sandwich Islands. Another subduction zone quake, 78 kilometers. Just seeing all this subduction zone activity really ramping up. The Mediterranean Sea areas to the east, pretty quiet. Did have a 4.8 in the Gulf of Aden. Looks like about 10 kilometers there into this little zigzag of a fracture area. And looks like around the India, south of the Himalayas, seen some movement as well, with a couple fours kicking off there. Indonesia area, a little spotty on the activity today. And of course Solomon Islands, north of the Solomon Sea, a couple earthquakes there within that region as well. Not a whole lot of deep movement over here in the Fiji Islands. We did have one 4.7 a little bit further south around the Kermadec Trench, the Tonga Trench area, 149 kilometers for that 4.7. New Zealand south looks pretty decent when it comes to earthquake activity. Not a whole lot to report in that region at the moment. Let's go ahead and check out the EMSC model just for verification. I'm going to start doing that from now on. Looks like EMSC reporting a 4.6 off the coast of the Chile area. The depth of this earthquake, roughly about 10 kilometers. So a little bit of a verification there on the earthquake data. This map here does show some further movement throughout the Indonesia area that USGS is really not reporting, but definitely showing up there in the 4 range across the Indonesia area. And looks like even up here to the north, a little bit of activity of that earthquake we looked at earlier. And what else we got here? New Zealand, as far as this area. These guys, is that 4.4? Yes, it is. South America, North America looks pretty quiet here on these guys. Check out the Earthquakes Canada map and see if these guys are reporting anything different. Looks about the same as last night. Not a whole lot of movement along the area. Some older activity over the last couple days, and not a whole lot of new movement to report there in the Canada area or on the northern end of the Cascadia. Let's zoom over here real quick to the Yellowstone area. Not really reporting anything. Let's check out the Yellowstone map and the Yellowstone overview here. This is up in the Wyoming area. Includes some stations there in Idaho and northeast entrance there of Yellowstone National Park. Not showing a whole lot of movement in the area. Looks pretty quiet for the most part. Maple Creek, seeing a little bit of spiky earthquake activity, very small microquakes here and very localized over the last of looks like the last few hours or so, but nothing significant. And of course, again, not being reported or put out by the USGS. What else we got here? Is that another one there in San Francisco? That 1.6 just pop up. What's the timestamp? 0244. So yeah, we just had that one pop up, and wow, yeah, a little bit of movement and adjustment up there along the plate boundary for sure, right around the San Andreas Fault, San Francisco area. It's been a while since we've had a major quake here on this section. 1906, right? Last major one, 7.9. Imagine what a 7.9 would do right now. That would not be, it would not be a good sight here for the city or anywhere in the Bay Area. It'd be pretty catastrophic. But you know, intervals are just that. It's they're looked at statistically in a certain amount of years of how common earthquakes are, or how much accumulation needs to be built up for a good sized earthquake. I don't think we're right there yet for a large quake like that back in 1906, but who knows, right? GPS systems and whatnot, they do monitor activity, and the accumulated stress here on this area of the San Andreas Fault is definitely significant. So you know, it may not be a 7.9, but it could be something a little bit smaller, but still a damaging earthquake if we were to see it hit within the Bay Area. So kind of watching that, you know, seen a couple smaller earthquakes right around the San Andreas Fault there. It's just something to watch pretty closely. Let's go ahead and jump over to Hawaii real quick. Not a whole lot of movement. Looks typical, right? 35-kilometer depth for these earthquakes here around the southeast flank. Latest one on the map at 2.1, 32 kilometers. Nothing abnormal. This little earthquake here was from earlier, way earlier this morning, 1.8 right on the north side. The rest of the island chain looks pretty cool, pretty quiet, and just kind of watching, seeing how stuff takes off. Look at this earthquake up here, way up here, 2.7. That was earlier today. That's crazy, way up there. Nothing around Greenland, nothing around the Iceland area. Everything looks pretty mellow for the most part, so still keep an eye on the west coast here, folks. It looks that way. Seen some deeper movement further west of Japan. The only thing that's doing is creating heightened pressure here along this area, so be on guard. Let's see what else we got here to talk about. Solar weather. I was looking at the sun there on the live stream. A little bit of activity kind of kicking up. Seeing a little bit of an elevation of some flare threats. C flare up to 45% with a possible M flare at 5. The sunspot activity kind of growing a little bit from these ones that were looking pretty well, not put together all that well. 2924 and 2925 showing a little bit of a regeneration of their sunspots. This one right here kind of be facing the Earth here pretty soon in the coming days on the kind of lower side of the sun, but probably not anything significant, but there is still that threat of a possible M flare from one of those sunspots. But 3-day geomagnetic forecast looks pretty calm for now, unless things change there with those sunspots and you know, potential CMEs. All right, guys, I am jumping out of here. Let's see here. What do we got going on here on the graphs? Looking at the graphs right now, I don't see anything too crazy. Japan is showing some movement right here. You can see that kind of well defined on the darker activity on the graphs, but nothing significant, nothing large. So we will continue to watch for activity. Hope everyone stays safe out there. It is, you know, earthquakes can definitely strike at any time. You know, there's really no predicting them. We can look at potential stresses and accumulation built up in a certain area that hasn't seen a large release of pressure in some time. And those areas, you know, are consistent with kind of what I'm pointing out at. Japan area, the west coast, that includes the Cascadia, and the San Andreas Fault southward. Kind of a prime spot right now. So we will watch it pretty closely, folks. And once again, I'm going to keep announcing it for a little bit. Just sent out 100 manila envelopes with some Earthmaster decals in it to quite a few folks all over the world, actually. And if you want some, interested in putting a couple on your car or your laptop or your refrigerator, they are free. I'm giving them out. No restrictions on where they're being sent to. Free of charge, of course. And if you're interested in getting a couple, send a request to earthmastermail@gmail.com, and I will get those off to you. Just got to include your name, address, and whatnot. Make sure everything's good to go in that matter, and I will get them off to you. 100 of them off in the mail today. We'll get to some more over the next couple days. So look in your mailbox for those decals. They'll be showing up pretty soon. All right, guys, enjoy your evening. Stay safe out there, and have a good night.